Hello and welcome to Art Talks. I'm Cecilia Skidmore. I'm talking to Adrian Waggoner, and he's joining us through Skype. Hello, Adrian.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad.
I hear it's hot out there in Salt Lake City.
It's definitely a warm day, yeah.
So you've actually had an upbringing that allowed you to travel all over the world.
Yeah, my father was in the Air Force, and we moved around a lot growing up, mostly just around the United States. And then once I graduated high school, I started traveling around on my own.
When did you discover that you were an artist?
8th grade.
What was the genesis of that?
It was when I took my very first art class in junior high. My father was very adamant that I learn how to play the violin and he made me be in orchestra. And I finally convinced him to let me quit in 8th grade, and that's when I was able to get into an art class. And at the end of that year, I just knew that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, I guess.
Tell me a little bit about your art prize piece.
The painting is called Saints and Old Martyrs. It's a piece that's very influenced by where I live right now. The original imagery has been in my head for a while, from before I moved to Utah. But once I moved here and was influenced by kind of the culture out here and the very religious aspects of Utah, then the concept kind of sunk in, and the image came to my head. It's 7 figures facing forward, all dressed in underwear. You can see it's behind me.
Mm-hmm, I see it. Mm-hmm.
White underwear and have halos behind their head, and there's a painting on the opposite side of the old martyrs, and they are, with halos as well, and they represent the past, I guess.
So you've got 7 people on one side, young men and young women in their underwear.
Yep.
With halos, and then you have 4 men on the other side who are symbolizing, and they're naked, symbolizing the old martyrs.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me how this relates to Mormonism. He smiles.
All right. So the idea for this painting, like I was saying, the original imagery that I first thought of is not exactly what it is now. I was originally going to paint just a bunch of my former models from previous paintings, all standing in a row, just kind of as, and it really didn't make any sense. I just wanted there to be a bunch of people facing forward. And I thought the painting really didn't mean anything with just all my former models standing there, unless it was someone who was like a die-hard fan of Adrian Waggoner, which I don't think there is yet. But it really wouldn't mean anything. So I moved to Utah and was very immersed in the culture here, just meeting all the different people, the very conservative people, Mormon people. I mean, there is a lot of Mormonism out here, and Mormonism is actually in my family as well. I'm from Idaho, but my mother and father are both Mormon or LDS. So I mean, the roots are deep, I guess. But the painting has to do with how closed-minded people are, and how the young saints represents the current generation of people, I don't want to say it's directly and only about Mormonism. It's about Christianity in general, or it's about philosophy in general, or ideas in general that the current generation follows. That's what the young saints symbolize, is the current generation and the way they pattern their life to follow things that people thought up hundreds, thousands of years ago, whether it makes sense to them currently or not. So you can really tie any idea into there, any religion, or any just philosophy of what we right now say, oh, that's just how it is, and this is what we believe. But yes, there's an obvious tie with Mormonism, with them being in white underwear, and there's obvious martyrs in the Mormon religion.
Well, so I get that, because I've seen the painting up close. And the kids all look bewildered. So they're acting out what the old martyrs are doing. They're standing in ways that are similar to the old guys, but they don't look like they're quite sure what they're doing. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you got that right on.
Okay. So tell me about the old guys.
The old guys represent previous generations and previous thought processes. They represent the beginners of religions. That's why I call them old martyrs, because obviously a lot of religions have started with martyrs. Christianity and every offshoot of Christianity has their one guy who, they changed things or said, no, this is how it is, and then they die for it, so it makes it really attractive, and people start following it. And so they are representing those old ideas that people follow today.
But they're naked where the other kids are in their underwear. Is there some symbolism for that for you?
That one could go either way, and a lot of the time I don't usually put my paintings chock full of symbols, because sometimes it can end up being kind of a trap. I like to leave my paintings to be kind of vague, so that someone looking at it can start to interpret it in a certain way. So once they're nude, then people can read it in a few different ways. They can see it as humility, as these people were, people followed them because they were, they had this like humility or
vulnerability.
Yeah, and vulnerability, exactly. And that kind of represents their martyrism, because, people, like a lot of the martyrs didn't die in a really brave way, per se. I mean, shot in the back, burned, whatever. Mm-hmm. Or, another way people can interpret it as exposed.
Right. Well, I also understand that the way you want them displayed is across from each other in maybe not a hallway, but in a room across from each other, and that part of the piece is the experience of the person looking back and forth between the two. Do I have that right?
Yes.
So tell me what that's about for you.
Well, I wanted the painting to be kind of like a 3D diptych. So it was the two paintings, and by having them facing each other kind of activates the space between the paintings, and it makes it part of the piece. So the space in between the two paintings becomes part of the piece. The young saints are gazing at the old martyrs, like right at them, and then the old martyrs are kind of looking slightly over their heads and up supposedly to the heavens. And then the viewer gets kind of caught in the middle, and they're following the gaze of the saints and then of the martyrs. So they're caught in the middle. It's just going back and forth. And if you stand right in front of the young saints, it looks like they're looking directly at the viewer as well.
Well, I appreciate hearing the story, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the piece.
Awesome.